All right, here we go. Podcasting time. Colin Thomas is here from WeWillFixIt and Essential Maintenance Dubai, which means we're talking DIY, we're talking repairs, we're talking maybe a rant, and
there's always a rant, James. The only question mark is what's the subject area going to be this week for today's rant?
We sent back and forth on WhatsApp a whole bunch of things, and I thought it made a really relevant, nice chat list.
I thought it was all over the place, to be fair.
Well, I want to kick off with the first piece of great news you had yesterday.
Oh,
and
yes.
You were talking about the WeWillFixIt and the essential maintenance business.
Yeah.
And the fact that things have changed in the UAE.
Yes, they have.
And they've changed, and I think people who haven't lived in this part of the world might not have realized how businesses existed. And I think people who are here now haven't realized that how businesses need to exist has changed.
Yeah, it's quite an amazing one. So we set up originally with the first business in 2008,
okay.
And we've still got that trade license live at the moment. We then started kind of in the background with ice cold air conditioning, which was our original trade license.
Oh, ice cold air.
In about 2011, I think, which then got changed to essential air conditioning maintenance, which is the current other trade license alongside WeWillFixIt that we have. And that covers everything that we do properly, which is the other big question for a lot of people. So
the different trade licenses do different things.
Yeah, you have one that's
you couldn't have one that just covers everything?
Well, believe it or not, we're working on that now, but you talk about back in the day and now. Yeah. So back in the day, you definitely couldn't. We had a technical license and a non-technical license. And the difference is 50,000 dirhams a year.
Yikes.
Yeah, I know. Painful, isn't it? But there we go. And that's how it was. But then the most painful bit, which as a Brit, I really couldn't get my head around initially when we were looking into it, was 51% of our business was to be owned by a local that we only ever met once.
Right.
And there's this side agreement that every expat writes with the local to say, oh, I know how we're saying that you own 51%, but in truth, we'll pay you a bit of cash each year. And in return, that 51% counts for nothing. Well, that got tested in court once a while back, means absolutely nothing. So in effect, you've got somebody who's never had anything to do with your business that you've been paying every single year.
Who basically owns the business.
Who owns 51% of your business. And obviously, Dan and I split the rest. Now, that has some real logic when you think about it from a UAE perspective, which is, in truth, we're all here as guests of the UAE and to facilitate what they need for the country to be successful.
I'm going to pause you for a sec. The challenge is, as you said, coming from a Western country where this type of arrangement doesn't exist.
No, exactly. Yeah,
so it's hard to do that mental shift, but remembering that you're here at the grace of the country and whoever's brought you in.
Yeah, but also part of that job is the funds provision for your local population.
Right, okay, yeah.
And part of that is in the sponsoring process that's been available until now.
Right.
So our sponsor, for instance, was worked in a government department. He was a student when we first met him in 2000. Well, yeah, we did meet him in 2008 actually, and now he heads up that entire organisation.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it is. So absolutely, Mabruk. Yeah. So a real progression for him. But as a business, we were a nugget in 2008. We're a whole different beast now. So we had a conversation 12 months ago about the process that's happening. And I think I could be wrong, but I think it's to bring it more in line with international standard trading practices.
Yeah, I think World Trade Organization.
Yeah, probably all that stuff.
There's so much change going on in the UAE. I mean, we've got unemployment insurance now, a form of.
Yes.
That did not exist until like last month. Or, I think it's been 5 months now. But
it's June that's the deadline on that one. We've got corporate taxation coming in.
Right.
2 years ago, we had VAT that came in. 5 years ago, we had the wage protection system.
Exactly.
That came in as well. So, no, it's all steps in the right direction. Oh, and emiratization. I nearly missed that one out, but don't get me started on that. So, where we are right now was, 12 months ago, we started that whole discussion.
of how do you take over the entire business and not have 51% in the hands of the student who is now the head honcho at this organization. Okay, gotcha.
So the reality is he still owns 51% of the business, and he's not going to give that up free of charge.
Right.
So the discussion happened last year, and in truth, we didn't get to a conclusion. So we carried on for another year. Anyway, this year, I think there was a realization that we will actually walk away, if needs be, from that discussion. And he came down dramatically.
Okay.
So we ripped his arm off there and then. And 8 days later, we are making those transfers happen. And that actually happened yesterday.
Are there any businesses that will stay with that 51% model, or do all businesses need to come to an agreement?
To be fair, I wouldn't know that.
Okay.
The logic dictates, very famous logic here, isn't it? Logic dictates that we are a mainland LLC, rather than a free, one of the free zones where you can always could own 100% of it, but you couldn't trade within Dubai itself.
Right, Jebel Ali or...
Yeah. Or when I say trade, that's product trading or actually service trading in some instances where you physically need to be in Dubai to do it, like we are. So I can't answer that question, but it seems logical that there is very much a push for all businesses to divest of their sponsors, but it doesn't seem like it's a requirement as yet.
Okay.
However, there was quite a significant shift in the approach that we received to last year, which suggests that there is some pressure coming, maybe
some writing on the wall.
There might be some writing on the wall that suggests that now's the time to make it happen for them. So, I mean, it's nuts to think we always knew, that we wanted to own the own business in its entirety because it was logical, and it's been almost 15 years to get to this point. So, it happened yesterday morning, and we weren't emotional about it, but there was considering what we've been through with this business, which is a permanent roller coaster. We're never getting off that roller coaster. That's the truth. It was a seminal moment without a doubt, and something that we both appreciated the magnitude of.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was a massive one.
We've just come off some rain, and people might be saying, oh, you know what? It rains all over the place. It floods all over the place. In other countries, it doesn't rain so often here, but when it does, I mean, it doesn't rain so often in Dubai. It rains in different parts of the country to different degrees. In the mountains, we have mountains, by the way. It does rain in other parts.
Elaine does all right, doesn't it? It's always green over there.
Elaine gets quite a bit of rain. And I think it's because you have the change of geography and the whole weather systems as they cut across there. So, yeah, that's the green oasis.
Yes, it is. So it's known as that, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it is really noticeable. It's a genuinely earned title.
And you go to Elaine, especially in the summer, it's still 50. It might be, whatever, high 40s, but the humidity is gone. So you find a bit of shade. It's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool place.
Yeah. Then you get the other, you get the whole East Coast, and then you get the West Coast, and they're fundamentally different. So when you're heading to
which, considering we're such a small country, it's quite something, isn't it?
But when we do get rain,
we get rain.
We get rain, and what amazes me now, we've talked about rain in previous episodes, and the interesting thing about water is sometimes it takes time for the damage to show up, or the problems to show up, which must be interesting for you guys. Because in the initial flood process that people might have at their homes or their businesses or et cetera, they might have said, hey, we survived well. Everything worked well. We talked about windows. We've talked about doors. We've talked about electricity flow. We've talked about water flow, tracing, all these things in recent podcasts. I know because I just finished editing them and they've gone up. So I'm very...
I saw. Thank you.
By the way, if you want to catch all of our podcasts, look, just go to your absolute favorite streaming service. Hey, make it Spotify, make it Google, make it iTunes, totally up to you. And subscribe to Podaholics with a K, and you'll get notified when every new episode comes up. It's as simple as that. The James Casts for YouTube, and you can watch us. And the similar content put up, so you'll get all you need there if you watch, because it makes you feel good.
Yeah. Water.
So the point of this, actually, the reason this came into up in conversation was I was talking with Glenn, PowerWorks.
Yeah.
We talk cars. and he was talking about the water damage at his home. And there were multiple topics came up in that. The We Will Fix It guys came in to do some repairs. They couldn't finish the repairs because DWA has to do its part and drying has to occur. And I just listened to him go, what a mess.
Yeah. I mean, if you imagine from our perspective, things get a little bit painful along the way.
And you get people on the phone going, I need this done. I need this done.
Yeah. We have no power.
We have no power. That means your refrigerator's not working. You can't charge your devices. Oh, I've got an electric car. I can't charge it. And the list goes on. And I got to go to work. Need blow dry. Oh, no hot water now. And the water's pretty cold.
So from our perspective, where it gets particularly painful is in the past, we're like, rain, hallelujah, here we go.
Yeah.
And that's fine when you've got just the We Will Fix It business. Where it gets more complex is when you have 700 essential maintenance annual contract holders that have within their contracts that within 90 minutes of a total electrical failure on any particular floor level, we will be with them. You then end up at a scenario where we've got a major commitment.
Yeah.
And we haven't got currently in our contract, we're putting it in soon, natural, effects of God or whatever they call it, the official terminology. Which
acts of God.
Acts of God, there we go. The
natural disasters not covered.
Yeah, well, it's down to, no, it's just the response time that's the issue.
Okay. So covered, but it's going to take us longer than 90 minutes.
So we could have, worst case scenario, we could have 700 people calling us and requiring us to be there within 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Now, from our perspective, what it's actually done is it's made us scramble in a very efficient way to make sure that we have that resource available, and we are micro watching the weather to see what's coming in the next hour or two and moving jobs around to allow for that.
Here's something I want to ask you about. So when you do the essential maintenance contracts, obviously you go do a walk around and you check out places. Has this led to, when we the current round of rain and potential floodings and things, and we'll get to conduits and all that in a second, but has it led to your guys pointing out, we're going to have a problem if it rains with this and that?
Massively.
And those things then become repaired. We're going to fix them. So it's almost preventative.
Well, this is what's actually happened.
Ah, yes.
Well, it's lovely when it works, I've got to say. But we were planning on having absolute nightmares. And if you imagine, we're a 24/7 service as well.
Yeah.
And what we've done that was really key for Dan and I, in fact, it's interesting talking about that evolution of the business that we spoke about, because from 2008, Dan and I ourselves did the first 28,000 phone calls that came in. Actually, no, jobs that came in. So if you multiply it normally, we get about 40% that actually convert. So on that basis, we've probably done, 70-odd thousand calls that we did that first. Then when we started bringing in, when we then started bringing in additional personnel to answer the calls, it was really important that we kept that same quality. Then when we set up essential maintenance, we're like, why does the quality through the night have to be worse than it is during the day? Because this is what people expect. So we then made sure that was the same at 3 a.m. in the morning as it is at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. Then we're like, okay, so we need to make sure that somebody calling us at 3 p.m. is receiving the service on the same, or 3 a.m. rather, is receiving the service on the same timescale as they would do at 3 p.m. Well, if you imagine that from a logistics perspective, you've just multiplied the complexity and the difficulty to make that actually happen. So to now be in the situation whereby we had provisions in place, and it's an interesting provision because as an employer, we treat health and safety of our workers extremely importantly.
Yeah, so they need to be rested.
Well, it's not just rest, and that is definitely, I mean, we won't work our guys overtime unless things are really, really bad, and we won't repeat it is really key. But the big one is the safety on a roof in the wet.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. It's a really odd one. But part of that includes, we do a lot of AC servicing. When it's wet, I don't want to have to do that with our teams because that is additional risk that we don't really want to be taking on.
Way too much possibility of electrical shock.
Yeah, there is. But then equally, when we have properties that in that situation have no power, we need to get to them. Now, the teams that have been doing the AC servicing are qualified on electrics as well. So we can actually use that resource more
okay.
effectively in that situation for other work that's required.
Oh, okay.
And away we go in that direction.
Yeah.
So that, in effect, is how we move around the resource to match the demand that we have. But equally, it was amazing that we didn't have anywhere near the level of demand from essential customers as we were expecting. Plenty from WeWillFixIt.
Yeah.
And the nice thing was, because we didn't have that essential demand, and the truth is, yes, we do prioritize our annual maintenance customers. They made a big financial commitment to us, and therefore we're on a bound to hit the terms that are in our contract. But to be able to help that many more people with water issues from WeWillFixIt was really key. Now, the bit that people don't think about, as you mentioned, is, okay, you've got the initial immediate effects, physical water coming through the ceiling, power going off. And the main one here is water inside the conduit pipes.
Glenn was talking about this at his place. He's got 3 pipes. Two of them didn't have anything going through them, and they just became a pool.
Yeah.
And the third one had wires, and it got soaked. He was describing to me, he was up on the roof. He's got
he bought his own compressor as well, which is kind of useful.
Rags.
And that is a limitation from what we work with.
He said he couldn't seal them up. There was so much water, so much rain coming down. He couldn't get it dry enough so that he could put sealant on, even, bodging, caulking, just to do whatever. He couldn't get it to work. And I was thinking, here's the mechanic who's thinking about all this stuff, and he's got no ability because of the deluge to actually stop the water.
Construction glue does that.
Yeah.
And I thought he must
have some of this stuff somewhere.
I don't think so.
He does now.
Well, what Glenn has that will work on absolutely anything is windscreen sealant.
Right.
That stuff's amazing.
Yeah.
So, he would have had access to that. But again, it's kind of difficult when it's sealing it down and you're looking at the various bits and bobs.
Yeah.
So the
conduits. You got the conduits.
Yeah, the conduit. So just to explain to people, conduit is normally a plastic pipe. Sometimes it can be metal, depending on the application, where it is used to shield the physical wires that go through that conduit.
Yeah.
So they're running all the way through your house, and from the roof down to the ground floor level, through the standard access shafts, they are there. But the problem is, if they are open at either end and they're not glanded, this is a particular part that's designed to seal these things, then water will get in. And at that point, the water basically just pools around the cable, and eventually it will find a little nick. And at that point, you've got some fun and games going on.
So this is an interesting one, because I'm thinking in the UK, I'm thinking Canada, and typically conduit entry points look a little bit like a candy cane in that they hoop up. So the wire goes in, and so you've got this kind of a situation where the wire's going in here and then going down. So the idea of rain collecting on the wire is pretty hard.
Yeah.
Why aren't they doing that here?
Well, that's a twin and earth setup normally that we have in the UK, and but it is kind of harder cable, and it works in a kind of different way. It's more flex here. Why are they not doing that?
Lazy? Doesn't rain enough?
Doesn't rain enough. If you imagine in the UK, a guy installs it, it's going to rain within 24 hours. And you're calling him back
when he's doing it.
Yeah. So therefore, you get away with less here than you would do in the UK than you would do here. So that tends to be where those issues lie.
All right.
But then there's so many people who've got the waterproofing issue.
Right. Well, Glenn had the second problem, is the water then was coming down with the cabling, must have hit his power box, shorted out the entire house, but went further and hit the DWA box as well.
But when it hits the DWA box, then you're in trouble.
Right.
That's painful.
So he said he had multiple problems, because DWA said, yeah, look, we can come and reset it. But if you're going to trip it again from your house, we're going to charge you again.
Yeah.
And so then he called you guys. You guys came in. You guys did your thing and said, we can't do anything more until the power's on, or until you've got electricity.
We can't test it.
You can't test it.
That's where the problem lies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's going, I'm going to catch 22, because if it's...
He is in a serious catch-22 there. But, the ridiculousness of Dubai, again, is this shouldn't be Glenn's issue. This should be the landlord's issue.
Yeah.
Now, the truth of the matter is, it is Glenn's issue, because he's the one with a family that's getting cold showers at the moment, and have various other things that are compromised, and the landlords don't really care.
Yeah.
And that's so frustrating, and I hope that regulation comes in more.
There was a second issue that, again, we'll use Glenn as the example, but this is Dubai wide, and Glenn just is talking about it. He's got a bit of a water leak beyond the conduit in different parts of his accommodation. And he's putting it down. They had hail, which, again, we didn't get hail where we were, but he had pretty big hailstones landing. Flat roof, the membrane seam got compromised with the heavy rain, with the hail, he figures, and now he's got a leak.
See, this is the other issue of Dubai.
You did this big switch.
Yeah. And the difficulty is, for waterproofing, if you imagine there is a tiny little window, probably about 3 weeks every year, where people need waterproofing.
Yeah.
Therefore, it doesn't make sense for somebody to set up a waterproofing business because they've got 3 weeks of demand.
Yeah.
And the rest of the time they've got zero. So that ain't going to be sustainable. What that means is companies like ours, we've talked many times about the fact we do not take things on that we are non-specialists in. It doesn't make financial sense to me to train up people or my team in waterproofing for 3 weeks worth of demand where we're absolutely flat out on electrical recovery systems and all this kind of stuff instead. So what you get is...
Although, well, I guess you don't do a lot. You don't do any tile work, really.
No, so we're not civil either.
So you don't have the guys who are doing the membranes in
Exactly.
showers. So, okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Sorry to interrupt there.
So you end up with the budget merchants that
Right.
are the only people. Oh, yes, we could do that, sir. What was it again that you said you wanted doing? It's only that outfit that are available. Because, again, the fit-out guys who would be capable of doing that kind of work are like, that's tiny. There's no point me even starting on that for what? I'm going to make 400, 500 dirhams off that. It's not even worth it. So you are stuck in that situation here. And the truth of the matter is, if it doesn't make financial sense for somebody to take on a job, they won't, unless they really are desperate.
I was walking through an apartment yesterday over near the Palm, and I couldn't help but notice clearly some seams, some water damage from that kind of thing. It was, it's coming from the roof clearly, and it's just coming down the wall.
Apartment?
Yeah.
That's odd.
Yeah.
Was it top floor?
Third floor.
Out of how many? Lots?
6 maybe?
Okay. I don't think that's water.
Oh, okay. But it looked like water.
Yeah.
It could be something else.
Oh, no, it could be water. It could be water, but I don't think that's a roof-related issue. Unless it was a fresh air vent. Could be a fresh air vent.
It was
yeah, that's possible.
It was kind of as you're walking down the hall, and then the hall does this abrupt curve, and there's a change in the wall, the drywall. It was right on that part. I was looking up, and I was going, oh.
It's possible there's a riser there, to be fair, that goes all the way up the main access shaft. It's possible.
Or I just noticed it, and it's coming from someone's shower or something.
Yeah, I think that's much more likely. I would look up into there and look very carefully. That's the normal one in apartment blocks, which is either wastewater. Normally it's wastewater because supply is pressurized. So at that point, your whole ceiling's coming down inside an hour and a half.
So and it's wastewater. No.
Well, no, there's the other one, which could be even worse. Think about it that
sewage,
way. Yeah, you do not want sewage.
I told you the story about our next door neighbor. Do you remember this story?
I'm worried that people might be eating their breakfast listening to this, James.
Well, I hope you're not. If you are, just pause. So we moved into our villa. It was brand new.
22 years ago.
Yeah, we watched them put it together. So basically I needed to move because I was in a place where everything was going wrong, and the university basically said when I almost fell off the roof today. And the aircon guys would come and they'd say, "Oh, you're an engineer, sir," because I knew everything about the water and the AC.
Yeah.
And this. So we moved. But the place we moved to wasn't quite finished. So we were driving by and we saw this villa going up. I said, "This looks like an amazing villa." And it was just a skeleton, but walking through, I was going, "Yeah, this is going to be great." And so we moved there, but it wasn't done. So we would go and visit the guys building it and just have a chat and see what's going. And, say, "Hey, you're doing this. And then, would you mind?" And of course they said, "Yeah, no, I don't care. You're moving in."
Cool.
But then there's 2 of them. So us, and it's kind of like a duplex, right?
Yeah.
The person living next door was also around. They were mean to the builders. They were like yelling at them.
Oh, I've heard this story. Yeah.
So what the builders did was, with all of the sewage lines, they didn't glue them.
Nice.
They just put them together.
Oh, yes, that's a good one.
Every room had sewage issues.
Oh,
they had to tear everything up.
word.
And ours, perfect. They said, "Don't you have this issue?" No. They also ran,
that's karma.
Yeah. They also ran an electricity cable out into the middle of nowhere.
Oh, man.
And so it was just burning electric because their electric bills were just going through the roof. And they say, aren't yours? I go, no. They actually thought at one point that maybe our electricity was running into theirs. So they were tracing everything. Going, we must be funding you guys too. Because it was like triple what we were paying.
Blimey.
Oh yeah. They just got them every way they could. Anyway, back
Do
to
not
the issue
irritate a builder.
water stuff. So, I mean, this becomes that issue. So what do? If you can't, it's like, so me as someone who's got conduits that are exposed, it's only going to rain, 7 days of the year. What should I be doing now to fix that? And what can I do about membranes, as in what Glenn's got on the seams? What can I do now so that I'm not going to be in the same position in a year's time?
First of all, wait 3 weeks.
Okay.
Everything needs to be fully dry before you seal. If you seal water into those conduits, then at that point, it will just sit there and sit there and sit there. And if you imagine rubber that's been in water for absolutely ages, or plastic that's been in water for ages, it's going to degrade.
Right.
And then when it does degrade, you've got a massive problem on your hands and you're pulling cable, which is nasty to do. It's a big old job. So do nothing for 3 weeks. Let the whole thing dry out. My front door is stuck shut.
What?
It expanded with the rain, and by the time I kind of remembered, oh yeah, that door's dodgy, it was already firmly on the ground.
So what'd you do? Nothing.
No, nothing. I'm using other doors at the moment. Just coming round, and I've got the slowest garage door anyway. So it's way slower than that. So it's one of those where you just got to stick with it, and we know fully well that it'll shrink back as soon as it gets some heat on it, and away we'll go. And that is the first step. Do nothing.
Do nothing, which is really hard.
It is when you're still lacking in some basic amenities,
and you want it done. You want it. Come on, this is gonna be done, but no, it's got to dry.
Yep. Really has. Glenn did lots of really good things. Like he blew out the lines themselves. That's logical, but there's nothing rather than heat that will really sort it properly. Because even if you're blowing it out, you're not getting really good suction around it. And if you've got any kind of bends in different directions, water can get stuck, and it doesn't take much for a cable to be, because it's going to be at the bottom of the conduit anyway, and it's just not. It's not a nice way of working.
Oh, man.
So, wait, first of all, then seal. Seal the conduits, make sure they are sealed properly. Thirdly, we say it on windows, and we mean it, which is just take a hose pipe when it's not raining and throw it over the building. In fact, most people will know as of now where their issues lie, thinking about it. But again, in all reality, they'll forget about it until autumn time and fall, Then at that point, hose pipe is the best way of doing it. So you have a tap on your roof, run that tap, see what happens before it becomes desperate. Because at the end of the day, you can flood just off the tap there alone. If you can get onto your roof, you can normally flood the roof area, which will find any issues with waterproofing. Yes, it's a waste of water, but at the same time, it's a waste of your bank balance when you have to do it because it's absolutely urgent and everybody else needs it.
You had mentioned that a lot of times the problems with these seals on a roof are really inexpensive repairs. Who's going to come and fix it for me?
I don't have that answer.
Okay.
In truth, because we are adamant about our position, which is we only do stuff that we specialize in, and we don't do that. I also understand the business side of this and why other decent outfits won't do it either. So it's one of those where I just do not have the answer. You're going to find a budget guy and you're going to have to stand over him and hope that it is decent, but complete the final bit afterwards, which is throw water while he's still on site, and before you've paid him, throw water over his repair and give it at least 45 minutes to an hour, loads of water, by the way, 45 minutes to an hour before you would see any kind of issues. It takes time for it to work its way through.
That's horrible.
Yeah. We had to redo. Actually, we had one at WeWillFixIt, which was right above my desk.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And my team, it took them 4 goes to do our own.
4 goes?
Yeah. And that's why we don't do it as a professional
and I can see them coming down there watching. There's more.
No, but I saw the imagery of every repair that they did. I would have signed that off and said, you've made best efforts at that. Well, no, still the same pour of water. And in the end, we had to chop out the entire corner of the roof, put in a new overflow pipe that was there, reseal from the underside of the slab, the upper side of the slab, put a new pet crate on it. If I'd been charging the customer for that, I'd be at 8,000-9,000 for a tiny little repair.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like good value, but that's just where you are. You're in trouble.
Well, it gets even more interesting if you've got, some laminate flooring and things. Suddenly, the cost of those repairs.
The laminate flooring is a disaster in that situation, because it just
goes.
It just bows.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've got a customer at the moment where there was a defect on a particular gate valve, in effect, that was on a chilled water line.
Okay.
And we operated it not knowing that there was this problem. Yeah. We took out his entire flooring.
Oh, no.
Yeah, we're paying for it. Let me be totally clear.
Yeah.
In effect, there's that whole discussion over, is it our fault? Is it not our fault? It was in his apartment. It was we had to use the gate valve. Well, to be fair, we're not having that discussion with the customer, because at the end of the day, if you do have that discussion with a customer, you can guarantee you've lost that customer, but you haven't lost just that customer. You've lost everybody who ever mentions We Will Fix It to him, and he tells them the story, because it will trigger every single time.
Could you have known about that?
No.
There's no way. Did they know about it?
No, God, no, absolutely not.
Right.
And they were lovely people as well. Well, that was 18,000 dirhams to put that right.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but it's the right thing to do. Now, we could claim our insurance for that, but at the end of the day, we save that for if anything absolutely horrific happens. And also, then customers have a nightmare to be able to try and claim off insurance. It's horrible. So it just wasn't worth it. And especially when we got such a nice customer who's that understanding about what happened. And we just decided we will take this one on the chin. We will not even have the discussion with the customer about a payment. And we'll just get it done.
Man.
Yeah. Fun. But these things happen.
Yeah.
And that's another part of our business, which is maintenance is not a perfect scenario, because you're dealing with old parts a lot of the time and defects that are already within a property by definition.
Yeah.
So it's important, and that comes to a large degree with scale. So now that we have the scale to be able to deal with this, it makes things a lot easier than it used to when we were a younger business.
You mentioned that insurance is a pain in the neck.
Yeah,
house insurance, home insurance, apartment insurance. We often think, I got to get insurance.
It's the claim. It's the claim where the issue occurs. So to be able to claim for an issue like this, first of all, you have to get a police report.
What?
No, it gets more.
I gotta have the police. I gotta call Dubai police. And
yes,
they've got to.
They have to attend. Then they have to. The Dubai police has to put within the report that the contractor is negligent for the insurance claim to occur. At that point, there is then a conversation with the insurance company to prove that negligence was legitimate and not as a result of either employing somebody who was substandard, or alternatively that they didn't use best efforts within that operation.
I'm still stuck on. You said all these things, and I heard you, but in my mind, I'm still stuck on the contractor is negligent.
Right. Okay.
I'm just
so
thinking.
we've only had one of these ever, and it was our worst job that we've ever had. Okay. So I'm not going to go into too much detail on this, but it started off with a fault on in an underground pump room.
Oh, I remember this story. Yeah.
Yeah. Started with a fault in an underground pump room that we could prove was there before we started. Then, when we had worked on the unit in a completely different area within that room, a fitting blew and flooded entire area that knocked out 80,000 dirhams worth of pump equipment.
Yikes.
We then drained it, put in temporary pumps at our cost, and then it flooded again off something that, again, had no relation to any of the work that we had done. We hadn't even been near it was a float valve that had failed. Hadn't touched the float valve, hadn't been in the tank. It just failed. And yet the customer is going ballistic. Horrible customer. Absolutely. Some of their approach was really, really horrific. And we were desperate to be able to work with them to solve it initially. Okay. So then that was the second one. Yeah. Okay. That was it. And then we sat there with them throwing all sorts of legal bits and bobs. They pulled a police officer to the site. I went on site as well. The police officer was very, very understanding.
Yeah.
But wrote exactly that report. It was due to our negligence. I was trying to explain to him, there's nothing negligent about this. Then the insurance company for us, and then they appoint underwriters who then came to us and said, yeah, okay. And it was a really complex pump system. So I'm drawing big, long diagrams on the whiteboard to explain to this poor underwriter the details of the system and the reason why it cannot be us. And then with photo reference, thank goodness the team had taken pictures before, and I could prove the fault that was there. Yeah. And they said, look, we're not even going to attempt to fight this guy. The customer just happened to be a commercial lawyer, which was lovely. Yeah. Oh, horrible human. And so they settled. But the thing that gutted me was they put in a less than honest quote from a contractor that they knew. And that got paid out in full, which now affects our premium dramatically. And it was not fair or equitable in any way. And yet we weren't referenced, even though now our premium will be paying that off for a number of years to come.
Man, that's horrible.
That is how insurance works. So I'm not a huge fan, to be fair. Yeah, I've got to say. But again, you
got to have it though, right?
We absolutely, well, lots of companies don't.
I remember your whole story with the Bulgari residences, where before you could even do anything with putting in quotes and stuff, you had to have insurance.
Well, no, we had insurance. The problem was
they
wanted
they
wanted a five-fold increase in the level of insurance that we had.
Well, it's Bulgari.
But the insurance company never even heard of somebody insured to that level. And then the Bulgari residences provided very, very little work, even though we were the signed contractor. So we dumped them in the end.
Okay.
But yeah, this is all, there are some nasty bits that come in alongside the kind of work that we do. Yeah. And that's just the unfortunate thing. And what you have to remember at all times is people are, how do I rephrase this perfectly? Treat people the way that that you see them as an individual. Try not to use past history to taint people. And when you have customers like we do at the moment, where there was an honest mistake and it really wasn't our fault, don't penalise them from the person that you've dealt with previously who did properly go to town. And hopefully you maintain a reputation that way. Yeah. But remember, things are going to happen with maintenance. There are going to be nasty jobs. It's just the reality of it.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
We've had water. We've had stuff that's needed to be fixed. You've got the door.
Yeah.
Saw a nice imagery on Instagram of you and Dan standing around a bathroom toilet sink, looking at stuff, talking about repairs.
Was that the blooper reel that you saw?
It could have been. There was a dog going in and out.
They were determined to put out the blooper reel as well. Where Dan, I mean, the best one of all. I had one where I couldn't open a gate valve when I'm trying to explain about how to put a bypass on for Diwa, which was genius because I didn't check it first. But Dan's was the best one, where he talked about how when he just moved into his current property, it had been an absolute nightmare when this washing machine flooded. He said, pointing to a dishwasher. So actually it's the other way around. This dishwasher flooded when he was pointing to his washing machine.
Trust this guy.
Yeah, they kept that one in, which was greatly appreciated. Just about evened out my one from the gate valve outside. But,
I looking at images, and then this has got nothing to do with those videos, but it did make me think that there's one place that you spend a lot of time in looking at your grout. Toilets, and that's in the washroom, because most people are hit the throne, and then you're looking around, if you're reading, but of course now everyone's checking their phones, but you're looking around and you can't help but notice
the worst is a shower. Mildew.
You're sitting there, and then you look over the shower, you look everywhere, and you see mildew. What can we do with the grouting? What do we do? What are our options?
Okay, so I have no official knowledge from the internet about this, but I've got a process that I use.
There we go. Hold on. This is the Colin Thomas process.
Right. Now, I've got to put a few caveats in here. The reason being, half of it, I use a two-step process.
The Colin Thomas two-step process with caveats.
There are big caveats. So the first one is, part two takes a bit of equipment that lots of people don't have, but it is not that expensive. Part 1 could kill you. As a result, so what I use for part 1 is I use a bleach mix, not a ready-made bleach mix for mildew remover, because I'm guessing there must be some regulation that's in there that makes it really weak.
Right.
So it doesn't work very well.
So
in
you want
truth.
the high test formula.
Oh yeah. So
Okay.
I'm on a 1 part bleach to 3 part water in a spray bottle.
Oh.
Yeah. By the way, if it's a dodgy spray bottle, it will melt the mechanism, as I've found out. Okay, so don't use a rubbish one. Next, health and safety. So I'm sure everybody has a full sealed mask setup to save them in this situation. But
if you don't, go get one.
Goggles are an absolute no-brainer. You also need to make sure that you've got rubber gloves on, and you've got to be super careful about clothing.
Oh, yeah.
So long-armed clothing. Otherwise, if you get bleach on you, we all know what happens in that situation.
And don't be wearing your finery because you get bleach on it. It's going to be
done. Absolutely. So be aware there is that. Now, the sensible way of doing this is, instead of using the sprayer, which I always use because it's quicker, to use a cloth and a small container of it, although there's more risk from a spillage perspective. But it does work. Okay. So I basically put it on, leave it for a minimum 10 minutes. You can see as it is changing where it gets you to, but it will not nail everything. It will do most of the job. It will not complete everything. Rinse it off properly. Okay. Then let it dry.
Let it dry.
Now, after that, I then go over.
How long does it take to dry typically?
Well, imagine when you have a shower. So normally about an hour, isn't it?
Yeah. So give it a couple hours.
So after that,
with ventilation,
I've got a steam cleaner. So I've got a Karcher steam cleaner. I picked mine up secondhand for 100 dirhams. An SC01 for those that really need to check it out. So Karcher steam cleaner, and it's only the Billy Basic one. And I then use that on the stubborn bits. And actually, well, no, I don't. I go over absolutely everything, because steam will kill mildew and any other nasties that happen to be in there.
So anything that's lived through the high test bleach mix, you now kill it with the steamer.
Yes, exactly.
Deep clean with the steamer.
Yeah. And again, if you can be bothered with a toothbrush, then that's kind of your final step process. I grab a big brush that's hard bristled and just literally go over it once, and normally I'm there. So both stages of that have big problems, but it works.
I'm just thinking the brush too. If you haven't got everything nicely cleaned, that brush is flying bleach everywhere.
Oh yeah, no. That's only stage 2. Do not use that for the bleach. Without a doubt, it needs to just be hosed off, and I mean, very careful about that whole process. So
where are the caveats? Where's the caveats in all this?
So we've got a little bit of danger from bleach gain anywhere that it could possibly go. And secondly, steam tends to hurt quite a lot as well if you're not using that properly. Thirdly, they probably don't have the equipment for the steamer. So all in all, it's one of those that is not the most practical unless you really want to go for it. But if you have to have all this gear, it works a treat.
Okay, so then that's it. You just refresh everything. So it looks nice. Oh man, that's awesome. What a way to end the show. This is exciting. We've got actually leaving people with solutions.
We might have killed people, but there we go.
Colin Thomas from Essential Maintenance and We Will Fix It Dubai. I'm James Piecowye, coming to you from the Rove Hotel podcast studio. This is the We Will Fix It Essential Maintenance podcast. Talk to you again soon.
Bye.